All right, well, I want you to feel comfortable with your choices around Platform SSO. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of history of how we got to where we're at today, what we're interested in, what problems we're trying to solve with Platform SSO, and then a little bit about Platform SSO for macOS 26 Tahoe. And because I'm a glutton for punishment, I want to slip in just a little bit about Bootstrap token. Yeah. All right, so let's remind ourselves of what the problems are that we want to solve with Platform SSO. Starting with, well, what kinds of problems are we trying to solve? These are the things that we've heard from Mac admins. We want passwords to not be phishable. We don't want credentials to be phishable. So here's an example of here's a really important document. Maybe it's a employment document, and you click on the thing, and you're prompted for your credentials. And because they're a password, it's username and password combination. You know it. You can give it to someone else. So Weldon did a great job talking about pass keys in the session earlier today. So if you haven't watched that, go back and listen to that one on video. The bad guys are getting better at being sophisticated with their attacks to get people to give up their passwords. We tell users not to give up their passwords to evildoers, but it's getting harder and harder to tell, is this a legitimate use of my password or is it not? So what if they don't have a password at all? Then they can't give it to scammers. So we're really, really interested in a passwordless future, but that passwordless future isn't here yet. So Platform SSO could be a mechanism for using passwordless, but it doesn't have to be. It could also be used for syncing your IDP password with your Mac password. A couple other things that we've noticed is that the user experience with Platform SSO has not been great so far. So here's an example. It's from like a 1013 box. So first you have to install the app that has the extension for Platform SSO. And then you have to wait for the banner to appear and for the user to click the banner. Because if they don't click the banner, this isn't going to happen. And then they have to click something, and then they have to authenticate, and then it's just, there's a lot. We're asking a lot of the user to do exactly what they need to do and to not get distracted. So thankfully, this is foreshadowing with macOS 26 Tahoe. There's the promise of this being a lot easier. And I have a video of how long it takes. It's like 3.5 minutes from the time that you go through Setup Assistant to the time that your device is registered as a device with your IDP. And for me, that just feels like it's too long. So I'm not going to show the whole video. So basically, we want to streamline the out-of-box experience. We want to enroll the device with the MDM or the device management solution. We want to create the computer account, which is also called the local Mac account. We want to have the user sign in with their managed Apple account. We want to register the device with the IDP. That's 4 discrete things that hopefully with macOS 26 we'll be able to take care of really quickly. Some customers really are interested in the 2-way password sync. So Jamf Connect, Kanji Passport, Xcred, that, hey, when I change, I want my Mac password to be the same as my IDP password, and I want it so when I change my password on my Mac, that changes the password in Okta. When I change the password in Okta, I want it to change on my Mac. That's not automatic. It's very fiddly right now, but that's what customers tell us that they want. And this is not applicable, this workflow of syncing the passwords is not applicable for passwordless flows. Because I've definitely heard people say, oh, I want to sync the passwords and I want it to be passwordless. Like, well, you can't do both. If there's a password, it can be phished and it's no longer, so let's just, there's 2 different, there's the two different ways of doing it, which we'll get into a little bit. File Vault is another area with Mac in particular. File Vault doesn't exist for iOS and iPadOS. File Vault still exists for Mac. I'm a visionary, and I think that someday we won't have to worry about File Vault on Mac. I don't know how, but as long as there's a password on a Mac, we still got the possibility of File Vault. So I'm imagining some future, 5, 10 years down the road, where the Mac will be passwordless and we won't have to worry about File Vault. So just think about how File Vault fits into Platform SSO. And then the other thing that customers and Mac admins want to be able to do is when something happens at the IDP, when you suspend or deactivate a user, want that Mac to immediately have log that user out or restart the computer, or just the IDP says this user is no longer valid in this organization, so it should have no access on that Mac, and that should be immediate. So that's something else to keep in mind. So just in quick summary, here is what Mac admins want. We want to provide a great user experience. We want that out-of-the-box experience to be easy and not confusing and not add to the stress of the first day at work. We want to preserve user privacy, prevent user password confusion, secure devices and organizational data, and prevent password phishing. All right, so with all that in mind, those are all the things that maybe we're hoping that Platform SSO can solve. And that's part of the excitement of Platform SSO. It's like all these things, all this pain that could possibly be solved with this pill. Microsoft has done amazing work with documenting Platform SSO. They've got great documents, they've got great videos, they've got some great presentations at conferences around the world. So this blog post is from 2023, before Platform SSO was even in public preview. At that time, they were really leaning into Secure Enclave instead of password sync. So see this green bubble where new Platform SSO, option 1, hardware-based platform credentials, similar to Windows Hello for Business. They were really leaning to that Windows Hello for Business with the PIN instead of the password. And as a long-term Mac admin, the idea of logging into a Mac with a PIN, like I did for an iPhone or an iPad, or to unlock the iPhone or iPad, skeezed me out. I was like, no way is my Mac, which I have all this access to and all these secrets, no way am I going to have all my users sign in with just a PIN. I need a long, complicated password that's going to take 23 peta years to brute force crack. But in 2023, Microsoft was visionary about that. And they even said things in these videos like, hey, if I know the PIN for your computer and your device is 1,000 miles away from me with my knowledge of your PIN, that PIN that I have is useless without that device in front of me. So that made me think. But what happens if someone steals your device and knows your PIN? Or what happens if someone steals your device but doesn't know your PIN or your password? And then is that really more secure? So it really got me kind of over that skeezy feeling that I had when I first was exposed to that idea. And in that illustration, they also have they really do a great job of summarizing that the whole idea with Platform SSO was that it's a way of getting a token so that the Mac user can access SSO-enabled apps and SSO-enabled websites. But the thing that got Mac admins excited was the password sync, which is hilarious to me because now the password sync is like, no, that's not the way, but we're going to use that to get you excited about Platform SSO. So that little back door is kind of cool. I'm going to zoom in on this table. I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't seen it before, it compares 3 different authentication methods. That left column is the Secure Enclave method. In the middle is Smart Card. And they say, and I would agree, if you're not already using Smart Card and you don't have to use Smart Card, don't go down that route. Like, use Smart Card if you have to, but no, either the Secure Enclave or the password sync. So the password sync method, notice that for passwordless, phishing resistant, there's a big red X. That if you're going to do the password sync, it is not phishing resistant. And the whole idea of having your Entra or your Okta or your Jump Cloud or whatever IDP that you're using, having that password used by the user every day, and the possibility of a screen popping up where they're going to be challenged to enter those credentials, that's the past. That's the way of the past. So I'm really excited about the secure enclave method. There's a lot of work that needs to happen before that has wide adoption, but I think that Platform SSO is going to be a way of getting people to that glorious future. And so there's a hard choice right now. You either have to pick the password sync method or the user secure enclave key. And so again, keep that in mind. I already talked about the skeeziness that I felt about a PIN instead of a password for Mac. It seems more scary, but when you think about the iPhone and the iPad, in a lot of modern organizations, your iPhone and your iPad have access to the same things that your Mac does. So, it really makes me think. If you're going to use a PIN instead of a password, that PIN will still unlock the Mac after a restart to open File Vault, do the local login. Then you're going to use your SSO token. That's automatically facilitated by Platform SSO, so that when you're trying to access SSO-enabled apps, SSO-enabled websites, that just transparently works. And you might not even know your IDP credentials. You might know them like your first day of work and then just have it in a password manager and never ever see them again. So a little bit about the evolution of Platform SSO. So with macOS 13 Ventura, that's the video that I showed. After MDM installs a Platform SSO aware app and the configuration profile, the user has to register the account. When the user enters their new IDP password at the lock screen, the Mac password is synced. I didn't even show those extra steps of, after there's extra steps where it's, oh, you need to authenticate. Now you need to authenticate one more time, and then it syncs your Okta password with your Mac password. When the Mac password is not in sync with the IDP password, eventually the user's prompted, with macOS 14 Sonoma, there's some additional features that were added. It gets better. Group membership, all kinds of cool features, but we're still at the password sync thing. macOS 15 Sequoia, now we've got the ability to unlock at File Vault with your IDP credentials. So that was really interesting for me, because when Apple first announced Mac with Silicon, they said, oh, and by the way, with Intel, when you restart a Mac and File Vault's on, and you're at that login window, macOS isn't actually running because the volume is locked with File Vault. So it's not until the first user logs in at the pre-File Vault login window, which doesn't have a name. You have to describe it as the pre-File Vault login window. Then that opens the system volume, and then macOS starts up, and then the user's logged in. With Mac with Apple Silicon, you don't have that same limitation. macOS is running. So my thought went to, well, what can MDM do to that Mac? And the answer at that time was absolutely nothing. The MDM can't do anything to that Mac until File Vault is unlocked. So now with macOS 15 Sequoia, you can use your IDP credentials to unlock the Mac and log in after a restart. That's really exciting. And with macOS 26 Tahoe, you can unlock File Vault by opening an SSH connection and providing your username and password. It's kind of cool. But back to macOS 15 Sequoia. We've got new login policies for IDP authentication for File Vault, for the login window, for the lock screen. So when you put, you lock the screen and you Touch ID. And the other interesting thing to point out is that what used to be called profiles in system settings is now called device management. So in settings, general, now it's device management. Microsoft's Platform SSO support went general availability just a few weeks ago. Here's a blog post from August 13th. I've seen dates as early as August 12th that Platform SSO was general availability. It had been in preview for a long time, and I heard people like, when is it going to get out of preview? Well, it's out of preview, it's in general availability, but that's not for the macOS 26 stuff. In this blog post announcing the general availability, they also talk about how Platform SSO support is a feature of Microsoft's single sign-on extension. For iOS and iPadOS, the app is Microsoft Authenticator. For macOS, the app is Microsoft Intune Company Portal. So Platform SSO is all about Mac. There's no Platform SSO for iOS and iPadOS. Those don't have login windows. If you're using Okta, Okta has a separate SKU called Okta Device Access. Now let's dig into Okta Device Access over the next couple slides. Okta Device Access encompasses two separate apps: Desktop MFA for macOS and Desktop Password Sync. Desktop Password Sync is the app that has the Platform SSO extension. So Okta Desktop Password Sync is the one that enables Platform SSO for use with Okta. The name of the app is Desktop Password Sync. So guess which method it uses. Does it use the Password Sync method, or does it use the Secure Enclave method? It's the Password Sync. So those are the two apps that are available today if you want to do Platform SSO. Microsoft Intune Company Portal and Okta Verify for Desktop Password Sync. And neither of those support macOS 26 Tahoe, the features of Platform SSO. So let's talk about, we've seen slides, we've heard talk about this, but let's dig into Platform SSO for macOS Tahoe. Great foundation, great continuation from Apple. Again, I just want to emphasize, it requires support from the IDP in the form of an app that installs the extension, and device management support. So you're going to use your device management solution to deploy that app, and the device management solution needs to support the new features as well. So we're going to dig into these 6 different interesting things about Platform SSO, the promises for Tahoe. So first up, the integrated setup assistant. So rather than waiting until the first account is created and then popping open an alert to let the user know that they can register with the IDP, we're promised that Setup Assistant will have a special pane for Platform SSO, where if the user does not authenticate with their IDP credentials, they're not going to get any further. And that act of authenticating with the IDP will register the device. It will enroll the device with the device management solution. Also, if the managed Apple account is federated with the IDP, can also sign in with the managed Apple account. And it'll register the device with the IDP. So super streamlined. And then for the account creation, the local account creation, depending on how you've got it configured, either the user is going to set a PIN for the secure enclave back method, or the IDP password will be set as the Mac password. Oh yeah, so device registration during Setup Assistant and previously that seemed optional. Managed account, managed Apple account sign in. I'm excited about this because with managed Apple account, you can facilitate having iCloud keychain and enabling passkeys in your organization, including managing passkeys, distributing managed passkeys. You can't do both. You can't, for a local account, you can't do password sync and secure enclave-backed credentials. You've got to make the choice. I like this detail that you can set the local account or the local Mac avatar to match the avatar in your IDP. Now, see your show of hands at who is using avatars in their IDP or user profiles. 1, 2, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5.5 people. That's kind of cool.
I want to sync to my iCloud.
Marcus wants to sync the avatar with the iCloud avatar because the iCloud avatar is probably a lot more fun than your Okta or your Entra or your Jump Cloud avatar. Yeah. Let's talk about authenticated guest mode because this is cool. I'd heard yesterday authenticated guest mode means the end of the need to bind to Active Directory. Yeah, for some things, yes. For others, I would say we're not there yet. So it's great for using a random shared Mac with an ephemeral session where anyone can walk up to that Mac, sign in or log in. Just a quick aside, so we're all on the same page with language. There's 2 different verbs that Apple has: log in and sign in. Login is the act of logging into a Mac from the login window. Everything else is sign in. You sign into your Apple account. You sign in to a web service. You sign in to an app. Login is reserved, at least according to the Apple Style Guide, login is referred to logging into a Mac at that login window. So it's an ephemeral session, meaning as soon as you log out, all your files are removed. And I don't know the details. I'm super excited. Like I hope that the way that your user files are deleted is that when you sign in, and I don't know, I'm totally speculating here, that when you log in with an authenticated guest mode, I wish it was that it would create a separate APFS volume and that you're using that separate APFS volume, and then when you log out, that APFS volume is obliterated. I hope that's what's going on instead of like an RM command that just slowly removes files. But I don't know. Tap to login is super exciting, especially in like a medical or a construction mode where anyone who needs to quickly log in can tap their phone, tap their badge, the Apple Watch, thanks Marcus, if that device has an NFC reader attached to it. And again, I can imagine some glorious future where a Mac has an NFC reader embedded in it. Just like some glorious future where a Mac has eSIM available. I mean, we're dreaming, right? So why not wish for the moon? So you tap to log in, you have quick access to the Mac to do the things that you need to do, and then when you're moving to the next patient or moving to the next task, you log out, and again, all your files are gone. But if you need to preserve your home folder, I think you're still going to need a mobile account with Active Directory syncing. I can't see the. I don't know how we're going to get away from that. OneDrive. Yeah. So save your work on a network account somewhere. Now I just have flashbacks of hearing about portable home directories. So for those of you who don't know, back in like the macOS 9 lab days, there was this technology from Apple where it's called portable home directories, where a student could theoretically carry around their home folder on their iPod. And not only their home folder, but their credentials. That the iPod would have a special location where the user information, the plist for the user, and authentication information was stored on the iPad so they could connect it to a Mac, log in, and work off of the disk on their iPod, or flash drive or something like that. I was super excited about that. It never turned into anything that was scalable or useful, but yeah, I think the combination of Mac and a lab where any random person can walk up and do their work and preserve that work on that Mac and have it synced to the cloud somehow, that's been a dream that we've been chasing for a long time. So if you need that non-ephemeral home folder on that Mac, Authenticated Guest Mode is not for you. Also, just want to make it really clear that the tap to login is only for Authenticated Guest Mode. The tap to login is not for a day-to-day login for a non-ephemeral session. That is a subset of Authenticated Guest Mode, or it's a use of Authenticated Guest Mode. All right, so I just want to summarize the promise of Platform SSO in macOS 26 Tahoe. You're going to enter your IDP password only once. And even here, look at me, I'm writing IDP password. What I really mean is you're going to authenticate with your IDP. That could be a passwordless situation. But so you authenticate with your IDP once during Setup Assistant, and that will enroll your device in your MDM or device management solution. It will sign in with a federated managed Apple account. It will register the device with the IDP, and the user can get on with their life and be productive and be happy. It will also create that first user account either with a password sync, which is the old style, tried and true, or with a PIN and a secure enclave-backed key, which is getting us closer to our passwordless future that we're going for. And Authenticated Guest Mode removes the need to bind to Active Directory for some cases of lab use. And you can't test this today because you need support from the device management solution and the IDP. So please let your vendors know if you're interested in the features of Platform SSO. At Kanji, we've certainly heard that from our customers. We are excited about the possibilities that exist. But if you don't let your vendors know that you're interested in it, then that doesn't encourage them to prioritize that. So please let your vendors know. All right, so I've got a little bit more time to talk about Bootstrap Token. I love talking about Bootstrap Token. 2 years ago at Mac Sysadmin, I did a session on Bootstrap Token and Secure Token. It's much longer. I only have a few minutes for this. So the reason that I want to talk about Bootstrap Token is because I think that with macOS 26 Tahoe, the new magic where the device management solution gets a Bootstrap token before the first login is what enables all the magic of Platform SSO for macOS 26 Tahoe. So I think it might be helpful for you to understand the ramifications of Bootstrap token. It's a feature of macOS. It requires an MDM solution or a device management solution that supports it, and it requires Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager. It allows a Mac to do all of these things: obtain a secure token, approve kernel extensions, approve software updates without a user entering their password, approve erase all contents and settings after an MDM erase command without obliterating the device, so that it comes back up without you having to restore with Apple Configurator. It allows you to use declarative device management, DDM, for macOS updates, and it allows you to create a new account at FileVault, unlock Mac, login window, or with Platform SSO. So I said it allows you to create a secure token. 2 slides, or a few slides on secure token. First, it's a feature and it's an object. So the feature, secure token, is an implementation of encryption keys. That's basically what it is. For securing the APFS start volume, when they're generated and how they're stored. So it's a feature, but it's also an object. It's a wrapped version of a key encryption key, or a KEK. It's protected by a user's password. Secure tokens live in something called a key bag, which we don't have a lot of visualizations of what the key bag looks like. But the key bag is a chunk of data written to an internal volume that's accessible even when FileVault is turned on. So the key bag isn't inside the volume. And I discovered that the hard way when I was playing with virtualization, with snapshots. When I was using APFS snapshots and like erasing the volume and restoring, I couldn't turn on FileVault because it turned out when I did the trick of the Shift Command Option T to open terminal during Setup Assistant to get terminal and pick an APFS snapshot, I ended up writing to the key bag, which got kind of stapled to the frame of the house, and then I erased the house, and then when I built the house again, it was looking for a key bag, which was it was gone. So you can't do that anymore because you can't get terminal in Setup Assistant anymore. But again, secure token is an object stored in a key bag. A user with a secure token can create new secure tokens. Which is important because other users need secure tokens to do things like access the volume encryption key, the VEK, for FileVault after a reset, and access the owner identity key, or OIK, for updates and more. This is all boring stuff, but it's super important and foundational to being able to do the things that you need to do. That first secure token currently is made by wrapping the key encryption key with the first user's clear text password, which removes the key encryption key from being unprotected and just kind of like just available for whoever wants to sign in first. The subsequent secure token users are made by unwrapping another secure token to get access to that key encryption key to wrap that secure. There's a bunch of encryption, and it's like, okay, there's all this stuff going on. What is Apple doing to like kind of back out from this complication? And all new features of MDM are going to be declarative, are all going to be DDM. Apple made it super clear in more than one session, like big font, big typeface, that DDM is the way of the future. Like, in order to use DDM, the MDM solution must support Bootstrap token. All right, so all that technology aside, Platform SSO is an app extension from an app provided by your identity provider, which enables users to sign in once the login window and then automatically sign into apps and websites that are SSO enabled. And currently does not handle creating that first local user account, which is the frustrating part, because a lot of people are really interested in the just-in-time user creation of Platform SSO, but the just-in-time user creation at the login window requires that the Mac must be enrolled in an MDM solution that supports Bootstrap token, fully booted with macOS, with the Setup Assistant completed, with the existing local account created, and with FileVault unlocked. And all that's out the window with Platform SSO and macOS 26 Tahoe. Partly, I'm excited that the device management solution can get a Bootstrap token before that first user account creation, because the Bootstrap token helps an MDM solution obtain a secure token so that new users can get the secure token and change local policy. And the Mac can silently install updates, approve kernel extension, and erase all contents and settings, and use DDM and allow Platform SSO to create a new user at the login window. And that last bullet point is the whole reason why I went through this whole dog and pony show about Bootstrap token. That allow Platform SSO to create a new user at the login window, because that's what it's all about. So here's what we want from Platform SSO. We want to be able to use it to provide a great user experience, to preserve user privacy, prevent password confusion, secure devices and organizational data, prevent password phishing, and Platform SSO for macOS 26 Tahoe promises to deliver all of this. Thank you for your time and your attention. I've had a great time, and I'm looking forward to listening to the recording of the Mac Admins podcast, and I welcome any questions that you have.
I'm actually going to put you in the spot on this question, but it's really more Apple. Do you think Apple has done enough to document Platform SSO for admins? Because I see so much confusion about people assuming they will have accesses when the OS releases at Setup Assistant. And I see so many people do not understand your point about password sync versus, passcode.
So one thing that I've realized about Apple documentation is that Apple talks about what it can do, and sometimes will seemingly bend over backwards and make pretzels to not say what it can. Both, right. So Apple avoids telling you what you should do, and it also avoids telling you what it can't do, with some exceptions. Like, remember when Apple's like, stop imaging, like, do not image. It was kind of shocking, because we're not used to Apple saying, don't do this. And Apple's documentation shies away from being proscriptive and saying, here's what we recommend, here's what we think you should do. It describes the universe of possibilities, and it's left to us to talk amongst ourselves, to talk about, here's what I'm doing, or here's what I'm thinking. So yeah, I would love to see better documentation. I would love to see different documentation. I'm happy with the direction that the documentation team is going in, and the resources that the documentation team has gotten. It could always be more.
For examples too.
For what?
More examples too.
I don't expect more examples, but I would love them, but I don't expect them.
I'd really like to know your thoughts on the whole SSH into the file vault. Does it not kind of, in my opinion, it kind of removes the whole passwordless factor when you have to be able, when you're allowed to use username and password to unlock something that probably shouldn't.
I did not try that with a Mac that's using the non-password sync method. I don't know why. Yeah, I agree that it is a contradiction, seemingly.
The way I'm wrapping my head around that is this is designed for Macs in data centers, which kind of have physical security solved.
But then why not introduce public key instead of password? Why not introduce public key, like using your normal public key infrastructure to do that?
Yeah, I think I would not be surprised to see that as a next step. The slides that I showed about Platform SSO, macOS 13 and 14 and 15, I didn't get into all the details, but you could visually see here's a progression of new features that came with each version. So I would not be surprised at all that in future iterations, maybe even the spring release, like a 26.3 version, maybe we could see that. Yeah, I did test to see if a Mac that is running content caching service would provide content caching service if File Vault is on and you restarted. It does not. not until you unlock. But if the Mac is in the data center just running content caching service, do you really need File Vault on? No. I mean, I would say no, but your security team might say yes. And at that point, is it worth arguing with them and like getting the exception and saying, okay, well, there's nothing that anyone cares about on this device. It's just a bunch of ephemeral cache. Oh, yeah. Who had it? There's another. Oh,
Yeah, I was going to ask about current standard user accounts and how do you migrate them to Platform SSO without disruption to the current profiles?
I don't know. Anyone have a?
That's another point of my documentation commenter, so that there's like no guidance on that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come.
I mean,
Talk about bad things in their documentation.
yeah.
They expect you to buy a new Mac. Yeah.
Now, I do have to say that I do remember, and like iOS 9, iOS 8 days, Kevin White at MacSysAdmin like talking about how, someone asked like, well, when are we going to be able to use multiple users on an iPad? And Kevin White was like, no, Apple wants you to buy more iPad. And then in like iOS 9.3, a spring release, Apple released Shared iPad to allow students to sign in, not log in, to sign in to a shared iPad.
It's horrible.
Cameron says it's horrible. It met the need for, it was a great attempt, and it negated the idea that Apple just wants you to buy more hardware.
I guess similar to that, like, for someone, maybe not with standard accounts, but even with admin's accounts, it's this great new experience for setting up a new Mac. Like, has there been any change to the process for, if you were just enabling it on your existing Macs, or is it still a long, convoluted process?
I haven't heard from Apple. Is there a takeover window?
Not yet. I did stick a feature request in for that, but it doesn't appear. So I did stick a feature request in for that, just like the MDM one now. If you miss the MDM enrollment, it's set up. So there isn't one at the moment, but if we all file feedback, maybe they'll add one, because for most of us, unless we rebuild all our machines, that's the way it's going to have. They're all going to have to enroll if we switch now, is through the little notification.
Yeah.
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 Nudge. Yeah, nudge with Platform SSO.
Yeah, keep the questions coming, folks, because we're just kind of stalling for time now, waiting for the next other room to come in. So keep going.
Arek, in your slides about Bootstrap token, you mentioned that you need Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager, but you didn't explicitly say what part of Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager you need to be using for Bootstrap tokens to be used and effective.
I don't remember. It's probably automated device enrollment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for that clarification. And in Apple documentation, just to stall for some more time, in Apple documentation, you'll often see, let me ask a question. Who thinks it's Apple Business Manager and Apple School Manager, or who thinks it's Apple School Manager and Apple Business Manager?
Which came first? School manager, wasn't it? Yes, school manager.
Apple School Manager came first, so in documentation, it's always Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager. It's very...
Not alphabetical? No, it's alphabetical.
It's not alphabetical, no. Chronological. Yeah. Another little tidbit about that your question reminded me of about Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager, Apple Business Manager, and automated device enrollment is that with iOS and iPadOS, you can't use them until you connect to the internet and those devices contact Apple's activation servers. So if you're stuck on a remote island with no internet, no cell service, but there's a brand new iPad, you can't use it. You can't like while away the time until you get rescued. You can if there's a Mac. You could play chess and graphing calculator because I'm sorry, I crack myself up because you don't yet have to enroll with. You don't have to contact Apple's activation servers, but for modern versions of macOS, for a device that is in Apple Business in Apple School Manager, Apple Business Manager assigned to a device management solution, after you've activated, after you've enrolled with that device, next time you restart, it has to connect to Apple's activation servers, unless you totally. Actually, I don't know how you reset that. If you reset that with Apple Configurator, but basically, some workflows involve IT setting up the device, enrolling it, and then erasing it, boxing it back up, and sending it to the end user. Does anyone do that? Has anyone thought about doing it and said no?
We'd love that feature.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I could see some time in the future where a new Mac has to connect to Apple's activation servers before you can use it. I don't know when, but at some point, yeah. There's a question
There
back.
was an argument I made to Apple many years ago. Max $10,000. Could you allow that device to be set up without internet when it's a corporate asset? But yet an iPad, which is $600, must go to activation server. I don't understand that concept.
Yeah, the comment was, years ago, the comment to Apple was a Mac is much more expensive than an iPad, so why would you allow that to be enrolled without, or used without being forced to be enrolled? And it's just, I think it goes back to the fundamental difference in how macOS and iOS, iPadOS are constructed in their histories, but we're seeing a convergence. Mac is becoming more like iOS and iPadOS and vice versa. Yeah.
But so does that mean that in an alternate universe, if Apple ever died, went away, we would just have a million iPads that could never be wiped?
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. If Apple goes away, next time your device restarts, or next time you have to wipe and reinstall that, you can't use it anymore. So we're all relying on Apple not going away.
Yeah.
And if Apple goes away, there's probably bigger problems in the world that
Won't be out of control.
yeah.
So this is funny. I'm getting messages through my watch, and it turns out that in that room, they're listening to us still talking in here and stalling for time until we finish. So we've got some kind of recursion thing going on here. But someone's got to stop, so let's do it in here. So big hand for Arek, please.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.